You are listening to The Thought Leaders Show with the world's cutting-edge, hottest innovators, influencers, and impact makers today. If you are looking for inspiration and motivation, listen in. Welcome to The Thought Leaders Show. Now, here's your host.
Hi, this is Tammy Patzer, and I'm really excited to introduce today's guest, Laura Streicher. Laura is an authentic healing facilitator and quietly focused leader. She is committed to harnessing and transmitting universal life force energy to transform human, animal, and plant life, as well as nutrients and pharmaceuticals, potentiating their highest and best expression for wellness and quality of life. Sophisticated, leading-edge, internationally approved scientific methods validate cogent results of her abilities. She is devoted to enhancing all quality of life factors on the level of body, mind, and spirit for the benefit of humanity. Welcome, Laura.
Hi, Tammy. It's wonderful to be here today. Thank you for inviting me.
We're living in a very interesting time, and this program happens to be recorded right before our early Thanksgiving. It came a little early this year, and Laura has an interesting take about Thanksgiving and the Trivedi effect and about life force energy. So I'm really excited to have a conversation with her. And we decided that this particular conversation would be very open and very honest and heartfelt. So we're just going to let that happen. And her take on Thanksgiving may not be exactly the take that most of us, especially those of us who live in the United States, have about this day that we celebrate, and give thanks for each and every year. So with that, Laura, tell me more about how you'd like to pursue our topic today.
Well, first I want to talk about something that has been a thread of passion for me pretty much all my life, and that is the relationship between grace, gratitude, and life force energy. Ever since I was a child, my mother used to take us to see elder relatives, and that was out of gratitude for what they had done for us in our lives. And there was so much grace and appreciation in that process, and it gave me a sense of happiness, giving attention and time to these people in the care facilities, and the grace in just being with them and the gratitude that they felt in just having people tending to them. And a gifted friend a friend told me once that grace is love without reason. And the Greek word for grace is based on the word for thanks, which is from John Piper in Desiring God. And that cycle of grace, giving to someone without reason or undeserving, always brings that lifting of the heart, the joy and gratitude. And that in turn, it fuels the fire and the passion of life force energy. And it's like this cycle of grace and gratitude and life force energy, and it flows in happiness. And there was a study done by the Journal of Happiness in 2006, and they looked at about 40 different studies on the effects of gratitude in people's lives. And one of the studies, it included studies from Psychology Today and American Psychological Association and a number of different other places. And they found 5 areas where that gratitude and grace and life force energy cycle seem to show up. And that is in the health. It increased longevity. It increases emotional stability and well-being. the personality is affected by being less self-centered, more spiritual. The social aspects of the person, they're kinder. And then even the career, people working more for the grace and the gratitude and the life force energy that they give from having a positive effect with their work brings more than just of course, the money is why many people work, but those who work for that sense of grace and gratitude, with that sense of grace and gratitude, their life force energy and their productivity and everything is better in their work environments. And so it was just really nice to find this research substantiating my feeling that this cycle was sort of self-propelling and supportive to some of the things that I'm practicing in my work as well. I guess that feeling of gratitude is that heartfelt response to love without reason, that gift of love, mercy, forgiveness, kindness. And it's spontaneous, and it just comes from that deepest heartfelt sense. And Guruji Mahendra Trivedi, who's the discoverer and founder of the Trivedi effect, has said that gratitude is not the trained and courteous response of thank you that we all learn as children, but this depth of spontaneous feeling in response to grace that can be attached to that thank you or that verbal expression of gratitude, but it's in the action as well. In my work, I harness divine grace or intelligent life force energy and transmit it to the recipients. And Mr. Trivedi has also said that life force is food for your spirit. So it follows that the spirit would be spontaneously grateful for this flow of divine energy and spurs on that positive cycle of grace, gratitude, and life force energy, which is, like I said, it just sparks the passion for me in all that I do. And I just wanted to bring that to people's awareness that that's a healing process in itself. For whatever has happened for people, the history of Thanksgiving has positive and negative sides that some of my friends have made me aware of. Of course, the conflict between the Indians and the pioneers was not always brought to light in regard to Thanksgiving, but many people have to look at it from a different perspective to see that it was a time of struggle and a time of war and a time of conflict in which many people were killed on both sides. But now Thanksgiving can be a time of healing, but not celebrating the idea that it was only just the peace. It's the healing as well as celebration of the peace.
So as you're talking about Thanksgiving, and it's interesting that you brought up the Native Americans and that part of Thanksgiving, because, you know, in the United States, and I know that they celebrate a form of Thanksgiving in Canada. I think it's called Thanksgiving there, but I don't know what it is related to. And of course, here in the United States, we do equate Thanksgiving with this bountiful feast where the Native Americans and the Pilgrims got together and shared, food and everything. But I do understand, like you said, it may not have that same meaning for people who actually are, maybe of Native American descent, or they have different cultural beliefs. So I think it's interesting when you were talking about Mahendra Trivedi and that being grateful or thankful isn't that thank you that we just say, like you give me a piece of bread and I say thank you, or I sneeze and someone says God bless you, those different things that people just habitually say. So can you go talk a little bit more about how this is so much deeper than just sitting around a table and eating a feast?
Well, I want to say something about the thank you. I mean, there are different levels of gratitude, and the difference in, saying thank you is fine if you actually feel the gratitude, but so many people are taught to just say it without the conscious awareness of that mindful gratitude for everything in life. A church in North Carolina produced a video, and this is about a different season that I'm going to now. It's the Christmas, and there are all kinds of holidays that I want to honor, not just Christmas, but the point is that the family woke up they were wrapped in gift paper, and their shoes were wrapped up in gift paper, and their electric light was wrapped in gift paper, and there was a bow on the sink. All the gratitude for all the things that we have in modern life were there, and that was that aspect of bringing to light what we often take for granted, and that's a celebration of gratitude there. But the deeper level that I was talking about with regard to Mr. Trivedi was that, and it's not just Mr. Trivedi, but many great people have said that being aware of that billowing or that flowing of gratitude as part of that expression for what is divine expressing through themselves and everything else in their lives. Feeling that flow, that grace, and that gratitude is part of that cycle I was talking about of divine grace flowing in every aspect of one's life. He said to implement grace in your life, you need awareness of where you have been, which is the experiences you've had, and where you are now, and that's how you've progressed, and how to implement divine grace for the best future outcome. And that's how to harness and implement the grace in your life for your best outcome. That includes the wisdom gained from the past. And Master Alice Granton has said that gratitude is the expression of what you do, or what you do is the expression of gratitude. Every moment of your life that you express is in devotion to either someone or something, but ultimately your creator, the reason you exist. For some people, that could be their parents or God or the universe, or even people. Some people exist for their children. And but there's this universal intelligence that moves that life force energy in all of us. And whether you call it God or whatever, that's that force of grace and momentum and which stirs the gratitude and in that cycle of life force as well. I want to switch to a story that someone told me, a friend, another gifted friend, and he said he told a story about a soldier who was running from an enemy in wartime, and there was no place to hide. It was raining, and he saw this cave, so he ducked into the cave and scrunched up and tried to hide, and was sort of opened his heart and mind to God or whatever, and said a prayer to keep him safe, because they would have found him in the cave. So while he was praying, he noticed a spider was spinning a web, and the other soldiers came and did come into the cave, but they saw that the web had been spun, which indicated no one had been through there. So he was safe. And obviously his gratitude must have been quite profound to have that little spider spin the web, which fooled the other soldiers, indicating that nobody had gone into the cave that far back. So, and of course his response, his life was saved. And so that's just an interesting story of the intertwining of that grace and gratitude and life force. And another story, well, I guess when my husband and I were first married, we were both concerned about the longevity of our marriage because we'd both been in marriages before. And we read an article about how gratitude and remembering the positive things about your spouse tends to make a marriage last longer. And we made a commitment to remember all the positive things and not take them for granted as our marriage matured. And that has been a huge, wonderful process for us. As I said, both of us in our second marriages. And it was probably one of the foundation tools for making sure that we never took each other for granted. And that sort of, in our case, has fueled the gratitude and the grace and strengthened our lives, I think. The studies that I was talking about indicate that marriages last longer, that people have more energy, and just more general satisfaction. And spouses that touch each other and assure each other while they're listening to each other also have the positive benefits. And that's a form of gratitude, is just listening. I know many couples use a talking stone or a talking stick so that when the one who's holding the stick is the one who's allowed to speak, and the other one listens. And then when the first person's done speaking, they hand the stick to the other person, or a stone or whatever, and then the other person's allowed to speak. And so it ensures, boundaries in speaking time so that the other person is listening. And that's a foundation for gratitude and expression of gratitude in action in marriage life, in married life. I guess, do you have any questions about some of the things I've said? I've been passionate about some of the things I've talked about.
Well, I was thinking about both of your stories, the spider web story, and like you said, think about that little spider saved his life because it spun the web, and the divine intervention of nature at work. And then the story about the marriage, and it's interesting because the fact that both of you were coming out of other marriages, and this was your second marriage, and it was like, hey, we want this to work, what can we do? And the fact that you actually thought about, gee, if we can remember the good things about one another when things get rough, and have gratitude and be thankful for each other, and your story is basically, hey, that's really working. And then the talking stick or the talking stone or whatever, I think that can work in all relationships, because that is one of the biggest issues. If you talk to people and they have trouble in their relationships, what is that all about? It's about, well, they never listen to me. They don't spend time with me. It's always about lack of communication in one way. And if you dig deeper, it is that lack of being grateful for that person that obviously, when you have children, when you have a spouse or a relationship, especially when you have a spouse or relationship, you invited that person into your life and decided that you had some type of connection. And even with children, if you think about these little children that you bring into the world and how much they need you, and even as we grow up and become adults, we still need that family connection. And I think that's why Thanksgiving for many people is can be very positive, and then for other people, the holiday season can be very upsetting and traumatic, just because of the communication factors. It seems like being grateful for people and communicating that gratefulness is something that we seem to miss a lot. But I just was really intrigued with your stories. I love to hear the stories about, how grace and gratitude and thankfulness actually are in operation in our daily lives. And all we have to do is open our eyes and our hearts and our ears to recognize all of this good that is right there in front of us. So I think that's very interesting. And I think this is also a time for healing. And I know that the energy transmissions really do help people heal, I guess, from the inside out at that soul or spiritual level. So I would love to hear more about that.
Yes, the Trivedi effect life force energy transmissions, which I've been gifted with the ability to give, connect the recipient to the divine and that life force energy, and that potentiates their energy system. It aligns them with their truest self, and it causes a deepening and a deeper connection and a greater wholeness, and just deepens that entire cycle of grace and gratitude and life expression. And that is definitely one way to amplify the natural cycle of grace, gratitude, and life force energy. I mean, Thanksgiving and the holidays are a time of healing as much as a time of celebration, because as you pointed out, many family members get together and some haven't seen each other in a while, or there are historical issues around holidays that present themselves to that air of grace and healing, which is a part of that whole holiday process that people tend to forget, is that it's a healing time, because that's an outcome of the gratitude and grace and life force energy that, if allowed to flow in those environments with respect and boundaries, and like with the talking stick, it allows space for people to be heard and to speak what they need to say. And so as we go into the holiday season, I want to just say that being mindful of that flow of grace, gratitude, and life force energy in the celebration, but also in the healing. Whatever the past with the holidays brings to mind for you, it's now in the present a time to heal. So, and if that is a challenge, maybe consider some alternative therapies like life force energy transmissions to ignite that passion for grace, gratitude, life force energy, and an ultimate outcome of love and peace and happiness. All of those are benefits of resolving conflict, not only in the present, but in the past. And I just want to encourage people to hold that in their hearts during the holiday season, that this is a time of celebration, but also a time of healing and finding that flow of life force energy. And if people need deeper connections to their divine, I'm here at laurastreicher.net, 641-919-6536, 641-919-6536, and that's LauraStreicher. And I wish you all the best of all that you can find in grace, gratitude, and life force energy. And thank you, Tammy, for allowing me to be on your program today. And especially gratitude to Guruji Mahendra Trivedi for this gift of being able to give these energy transmissions in the divine.
Well, that's just beautiful, Laura. And I really appreciate you talking about Thanksgiving and about gratitude and grace and giving and everything, because I think sometimes in the hustle and bustle, we forget about slowing down and re-energizing and connecting with our life force and our divine. And it really is a great time. And everyone remember, Laura, she has a really great website. You can go check it out. It's at laurastreicher.net. And she can talk to you and help you get that connection. And especially if you're feeling like you need a little connection, and many people do seem to feel that very strongly during this time of year. So again, Laura, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you again, Tammy.
Okay. Bye-bye. Everyone,
Bye.
This is Tammy Patzer. Go make it a beautiful day.
You've been listening to the Thought Leaders Show. To get all past shows and to get all future shows, go to thoughtleadersshow.com.